Aloha everyone, my name is Keenan and welcome back to the channel. And boy do we have a treat for you all today. Today we're going to have Matt Picardal on for the channel, and he's a structural engineering YouTuber. So today we get to talk about what it's like being a construction engineer and a structural engineer. So I'm going to be releasing bits and pieces of our conversation every single Wednesday, and I believe it's going to be around 9 parts, give or take 1 part or 2. So if you're trying to decide whether you should go into construction engineering or structural engineering, be a designer or a contractor, this is the perfect video series for you. So today we're just going to have a general conversation about what is involved in construction engineering and structural engineering and why we chose to go into those specific industries. And be sure to stay all the way to the end because we give you some good tips for your career. So if you're ready to go, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and hit the notification bell below so you can join our growing family here on YouTube. And Matt should be really close to 70,000 subscribers, so anyone from my channel, go over there, help him get to 70,000. And if anyone is here from Matt's channel, come on board too. So without further ado, let's get into the video and be sure to comment any of your thoughts below.
Well, today I have Matt Picardal. I'm sure if everybody was actually watching engineering YouTube, you probably knew of him before you even knew about me. But anyway, thank you, Matt, for coming on. We'll be willing to talk to, I guess, both of our channels today. So just kind of give a little bit of background for anybody who hasn't met you before, or what you do, how long you've been in the industry, just kind of a quick little thing about everything about you.
Yeah, thanks, Keenan. Thanks for having me on. I know this is, I get a lot of questions from students and engineers that want to get into construction engineering or civil engineering or structural engineering. So it's great to have you. You're working in the construction engineering field too. So I myself am really interested to learn about that. For me, I've been in the structural engineering industry for about 6 or 7 years now. So I'm a structural project manager at the firm I'm working for, and yeah, I pretty much do YouTube on the side, and just sharing my passion for structural engineering and trying to pass my licensing exam at the same time. It can be tough, but it's been a fun journey for me.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know about the structural engineering exams, I just did my video about taking the PE exam. I mean, that's baby food compared to what Matt's trying to do right now. So it's a tough test. So it's hats off to you for going through with that. Why did you choose civil? What was your thought behind choosing civil engineering, and why did you go into the structural route? Kind of start there.
Yeah, I think the quick version of it is when I was younger, I'd be watching those modern engineering TV shows, where the one that stood out to me was like the Taipei 101. They did like a show about the Taipei 101 and how engineering wise it had all these problems, and then the engineers would solve it. And those buildings wouldn't be standing up unless those engineering problems got solved. And that's how I pretty much even just put civil engineering in the running. Then, went to college and got to try out all the civils. I like geotech and I like structures, but I ended up choosing structures mainly because to me, it made more of an impact. I know all of the disciplines have an impact in their own way, but for me, personally, seeing structures go up and things that you personally designed and seeing them being built and the scale that they're being built to, that was the coolest thing for me. And even when I got to actually see my first building go up, there's nothing like it, especially when it's your first time and you actually get to design something and get to see it built, and just seeing the scale of it, and especially after it's being used by people and it's like an impactful thing in society, like you were part of that community that you just like helped design, and seeing it being used, that's the thing, man. It was the impact. I think not a lot of careers can have that, where you can actually see the things that are being built and you can actually see people use it. So for me, that was a big thing.
That's actually super interesting, because like I feel the same way, but it's about because you're like, that's the building I designed, right? And like for us, it's like that's what we built, right? So
Yeah, it's you
you
actually
know,
built.
yeah, the funny thing, right, is that's us contractor. We'll have when you're building the job, there's sometimes a tendency to like when you see the designers come out and you're just like, these guys don't even know what we're going through, right? But there's so much when you really take a step back, it's interesting to see, right? There's so much pride in what you do, and for us, or for me specifically, I liked seeing what we did, and I mean, if you did it right, I mean, it should be there for a long time, right? And that's a landmark in your life. You can drive around. Every building has a story about, that's not just a sidewalk. We had to redo that 3 times because of whatever, right? Or yeah, the guy couldn't make his decision, so we had to figure out how to make all these curves work and all that kind of stuff. So it's just funny to hear that you guys have the same thought, and I think that's what makes engineering really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think in general for the AEC, architectural engineering, construction industry, what I've noticed is when projects go well and they're not like nightmare projects, it's everybody. Everyone has their, it's not just the architect, it's all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors, subcontractors. They all take pride in what they do, and the building couldn't be built or completed without them or designed. And I think that's what's cool about it. At the end of the day, everyone plays their part. Everyone's takes pride in what they do, and the buildings wouldn't be built without everyone working together. At the end of the day, during construction, I know it's stuff's on fire and everyone's screaming at each other sometimes, but like when it's done and it's built, I think that's when everything's like, yeah, it was worth it,
Yeah.
going through all that.
So was there ever a point in your time when you knew, or you were thinking about, how you said you were doing geotechnical, structural, what kind of got you to say, yeah, this is what I want to do, this is the direction that I want to go?
I think it was when I took my I enjoyed the classes, right? So actually at first I didn't. The ones that we took, the design classes, I liked all of the theory and all of like the physics, statics, dynamics courses that we had to take before we even got into the design classes. I did not enjoy those.
What did you not enjoy about them?
It was math, it was physics, and for me, I was okay at those. Like I didn't like I wasn't not good at them. Like I'd get a passing grade and whatnot. Well, I even failed some math classes, but we can get into that later. But it was the way I worked is if it doesn't have a purpose, I'm not like really motivated to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was taking like a statics or dynamics class, I didn't know how important they were until I started taking my design courses. And that's when I got interested in statics and like dynamics. Once I took a design course in like concrete or steel, and then it was like, oh, that's why we needed to learn statics and dynamics, strength of materials.
Right.
And when I got my master's, before that, I brushed up on all those things because those were the fundamentals, and those are the
Right.
things that it was more enjoyable once I knew why are we learning math to do this, to design structures and to design buildings. Like it was actually practical, and
Mm-hmm.
I still use it every day. Those fundamentals of statics and dynamics. So for me, that's what really pushed me towards it. That I could see like, oh, all these things I'm learning, they're not just to learn. They're not just like a useless class. They were practical, and for me, practicality is one of the things that I'm drawn to. Like if it has a purpose and it has an impact, I think that's why I was drawn into that at the end of the day.
That's super interesting actually, because a lot of times those statics dynamics courses, right, those are the ones that are supposed to weed out the people that shouldn't be in engineering, right? But it's just interesting to hear that your perspective, right? It's like you don't need to be in love with that in order to be a good engineer or to, succeed in civil engineering, right? You can, those classes are, like you said, math and physics, right? But once you get into real engineering, that you can pull bits and pieces from it, but you don't need to be completely in love with those classes to be a decent engineer. So that's super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just tools. I say they're part of your knowledge, and you just use them every day, and they're fun once you know them. But we're not like theoretical physicists that are deriving equations and coming up with new formulas. All of that stuff, the whole point of the code is to simplify all of that theory so we can use something essentially that's easy to use. And if we can plug and chug like numbers into an empirical or a formula that was like tested like out in the field and like through research, easy. Instead of one big derivation, it's just like one simple formula that you can find in the code, and that's how you can design stuff. So that's one of the things, like we're not super theoretical in the consulting industry.
In the consulting industry.
Yeah, research is another thing.
Right.
Yeah, what was it about so what was it about, you mentioned you had your internships and then that ultimately led you to construction engineering. Like how was that like? Yeah, could you explain that? Like you were thinking about going into civil and then you get into construction, then you're like, screw civil, I'm going to this. Like, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I loved every day about going to my job during that internship. I think it was, Hawaii construction is pretty big, so it seemed natural to me to just kind of try to do it first and see what I could get, because there's not too many huge structural engineering firms in Hawaii. So if I were to go to a big one, it would be probably back in the mainland where I went to school. So I wanted to be home, so I said, okay, just do this job, and just being there and being with the workers, working things out with the crew, and I was with a superintendent that had a little bit of that attitude of like, yeah, these designers, they don't know, they don't come out here, we never see them. So I thought in my mind, like, yeah, I don't want to be that guy, right? I want to be that lame designer. But he was actually very smart in the sense that he said, if I wanted to go into design, he said, I would be a substantially better designer if I started in construction. He said, you can always go back. He said, but you'll go back with some real good knowledge about what works and what doesn't work. So I said, okay, that kind of made sense to me. I said, but now looking at it, it's like I would never go back because I don't have the mental capacity to go get back into that mode of what designers do. But yeah, I was there. I had my own little crew. I ran we had precast panels that had to sit on top of rebar and had grout tubes in there. So I needed to, I worked with my crew on how to do it. We had to figure out how to work the pump, what mixes we needed to do. And the foreman only gave me 2 guys at the time. And so we had the pump at the bottom, and then it needed to pump. We needed the grout to shoot up at the top, right? And that's how we knew that the whole tube was filled in the panel. And I just remember being there, and we thought it was going to be fine, right? On paper, it's like, yeah, this should work. So we pour the grout in the pump, it's going. And then all of a sudden the grout just shoots out of the top tube, like 20 feet away. And then we don't know how to stop it. And then we only had the one guy at the bottom and the one guy at the pump mixing. So then, well, how do you plug the top with only one other guy? So then I had to jump in, right? So I had the thing. And at the end of the day, the guy at the bottom had grout all over his hard hat, right? But when we were there, we just felt that bond as a crew together, right? Like, okay, and we made improvements. We added another guy. We looked at our budgets, all those kinds of things, and that I thought was really fun. Just okay, here's what we need to do on paper. How do we actually get there? And that's what I think really drew me in. And then, yeah, when the building's there, you feel like you built that building. And that I believed at the time, that meant more than I drew the building or I designed the beam or I, did whatever. That's what did it for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's at home, if you do like a DIY project, like you make your own tabletop or whatnot, like that feels really good. It was like your
Yeah.
own two hands, and
Yeah.
you put the the blood, sweat, and tears into it. And as you're going through that, if you're doing it with a team of people you like and respect, I think that's a big thing about construction. And when people are deciding like which two fields that they want to do, I think that could be a big draw for someone that wants to be out there with people and likes the maybe more the DIY handset of or skill set of doing things like that. I think I definitely get that. I know for me, it's I like being out in the field, but I don't like being out in the field all the time. And for me, I'm an introvert, like naturally. So I like being in the office. I like I recharge by like being alone and not being around people all the time. Like if I go to conventions and stuff like that, like yeah, I'll talk to people and do it, but it like drains me. So like the less people I'm around, the more energized I am.
Yeah.
So it's like knowing yourself and your personality and
That's super
yeah,
true.
what type of work you do. But
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. Like I'm sure that you guys probably get more satisfaction than us because you guys are actually seeing it built like day by day, seeing it gradually built versus the engineer, the architect that may just see photos of it from every couple weeks or so.
But either way, it's still rewarding, I'm sure. I mean, you're a part of something that stand for a while, right? And that's you can't build a building with only the contract. As much as we'd like to believe it, that we don't need any of these consultants. If you just told us what to do, we could just do it, right? But no, we can't. So it takes the team.
And I like your point about engineers getting a construction internship. I wish I would have gotten one. Like if I was to do it over again, I would have like worked in a construction internship and then a structural firm, because like you said, you learn so much when you're actually out in the field. And for me, it was a learning curve. If you've never been on a construction site or even see how things get built, it's a longer learning curve, because that'll come in as an RFI if you're helping design something, and then you'll learn your lessons, but you might have learned them a lot better if you were out in the field and knowing how things are constructed. And it blows my mind that engineers are designing things, like they teach us, like we're designing things that we don't know that are how they're built, like when we're in school. Like they're teaching us how to design timber. They're teaching us how to design like masonry and concrete. But if you ask like a typical civil engineering student, they're not going to know how this stuff is constructed. Like I learned a lot of it from talking to my senior engineers, and that's experience. So it's like you can learn so much if you're out in the field. So it still blows my mind that we don't have like a construction class like as part of our curriculum, because it doesn't make sense.
Say 3 things that you wanted to share with aspiring engineers or that wanted to be in your field. What would you tell them?
I'd say, I guess some tips is, grades aren't everything. So obviously be good technically as best as you can. If you're at least if you're an engineer, in structural engineering, or I think even in civil engineering in general, your first 5 to 10 years, become an expert, like technically, like try to learn as much as you can about the technical things in your field on For us, it's like different materials, how things are constructed, how to design things, and how to read the codes and stuff like that. And that should be your main focus, I think, because uh, later on, if you're good at that, it's going to earn you the respect of like uh, the people that you're eventually going to lead or help guide or help manage, because you kind of fall into that trap of like what the ignorant leader that kind of just gets promoted but doesn't know what's going on or doesn't know what the team's going through.
Right.
Like he can't help the team because he doesn't know what the team's going through or how to solve their problems.
Right.
But if you do have all that technical knowledge, then I think that's what's kind of unique about, or more unique about engineering, is that you need to know what you're doing, or else you can't even help your team or help them succeed.
That's super true. Yeah. Yeah.
But also,
being a cheerleader can only help you and get you so far.
yeah, there's only so many times you can tell your team, get it done. And like, you don't, I don't care what happens, just get it done. It's like, well, they need help. But I say, especially with like newer engineers too, it's, yeah, focus on technical, but whenever you got like time, read about, like, you got to understand all the communication skills that you need to be in that position. So that means like improving your communication skills, maybe taking a public speaking class, get better at writing emails, better and shorter to make your points clear. Because if you are in those leadership positions, you're going to have to be doing those things too, like communicating with the contractor, owner, clients. It's you don't just want to all of a sudden be put into those positions and you don't know how to do those.
Right.
It's you got to be aware of those things. So focus on technical, but hey, get out there and go talk to people, improve your communication skills.
Yeah.
That's been a game changer for me. And you're gonna suck at it like I did, but maybe even taking like a public speaking class, like Toastmasters or something. Like I took a public speaking class, and when you first do it, you're completely horrible and like shaking and can't talk. But you'll learn that it's an essential skill, like wherever you go. If you can learn to communicate with people, I think that's, and learn to manage and help people, try to help them in their careers, you'll get helped as well. And all these are skills. You got your technical skills, you're good with that. If to really like boost it up, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and maybe take a public speaking class, because it's one way or another you're gonna be like if you can't talk to like your CEO, or like you're intimidated by somebody, or if you can't talk to a group of people or a group of owners or architects, and you're just like, or even the contractors when you're out in the field, that says a lot about you and your company. Like if you're responding to them in a very like timid or scared way, if you're doing that, it gives the wrong impression. And impressions shouldn't matter, but the real world, they do. So the more you can improve that, I think it's going to take you in the long term, it's going to improve your career a lot. So definitely, yeah, technical skills are important, but don't neglect the other skills that you can learn as well.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's super important. I would piggyback off of that. Yeah, it's whether you're doing your job, I mean, it's not just your team. You've got the designers, you've got contractors, you've got owners, you've got the workers, you've got suppliers. There's so many people that touch a construction project. You have to be able to work and talk with people, and they're all not created equal as well. So you're gonna have to figure out different ways. You can't talk to people the same way if you want to influence them. So you figure out what makes them tick, and kind of play to that relationship. For me, I would say for my industry, don't be afraid to put in the time, put in the hours, but also at the same time, if you don't like it and this is not the place for you to hate putting in that time, right? This is not the industry for that. So don't be in a rush to have your whole life figured out, but put in the time early to make sure that you can accelerate that process as quickly as you can, because I think that we're kind of in a time now where people want to, they want to live out their younger life, right? But you can really set yourself up really well early in your life by just making use of your 20s essentially. So I would say don't make sure that you don't waste that time and try to make sure you're setting your career up or setting up what you really want to do very early, because it does make your life a lot easier, 5-6 years in. I'm seeing the benefits already from all the time that I spent at the beginning. So, and you don't have to have it all figured out like me and Matt. Just we don't know everything.
Yeah, like you said, set yourself up, if you're just watching Netflix all day, and I do a fair amount of that, but if that's all you do, like long term, it's not really doing much. I mean, there's a lot of skills that you could learn. Maybe there's things that you can do at work to make you more valuable, or maybe even doing like side hustles or whatever, where you're learning stuff and making yourself more valuable. I think it's like what is it? Investing. Put in the effort now, and a couple years down the line, maybe those skills will help you out, and you'll have a lot more options open to you. So yeah, great advice.
Well, that was the end of part 1 of my conversation with Matt, construction engineer and structural engineer. We hope you got a lot out of that conversation, and if you don't want to wait for my videos to come out on Wednesdays, be sure to check out Matt's channel. He will have the full conversation on his channel for you to view and get a sneak peek. So if you have any further questions, be sure to comment below and I'll do my best to reply to you. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and hit the notification bell below so you can join our growing family here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next video. And come back next week for part 2.